Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Are you worried by this, Dale Vince, or do you think this is a pragmatic response to some political pressure?
Yeah, I'm not worried. This story's been rumbling for weeks now, with the media kind of really fretting over whether this policy is being ditched or being nailed to the mast. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think Labour are entirely right to say the economy matters the most. I think voters want a responsible next government. This one hasn't been with the nation's money. And to say that we'll look at the state of the accounts before we decide how much we can commit to this agenda is entirely sensible. But having said that, there are an awful lot of things in the green economy that we can spend money on that are simply a good investment. And we'll probably go ahead anyway, in my view, certainly should do.
The difficulty with that argument is this, isn't it? Which is, if you say borrowing to invest is in itself a good thing, it will boost the economy. Look at President Biden. It's a bit difficult then, Paul Treasurer, to say, well, we can't tell you how much we're spending.
Well, look, I think this is a really important subject because the UK faces enormous challenges. We have to get a step change in our economic growth. And to my mind, the only way to do that is through a sound, detailed industrial strategy. The beauty of the 28 billion was it was a great North Star for an industrial strategy. And I think ultimately what business will do is invest in those places and those countries where it's most attractive to invest. So we'll invest in countries where there's consistency of political leadership, where there's clarity of policy, and where there are incentives to invest. So you mentioned earlier, quite rightly, the USA $369 billion to boost green investment. That's the sort of competition we're up against. So you only win in competition if you have very clear and determined strategy.
Dale Vince, that lack of clarity that is being hinted at there by Paul Dreschler, is that a danger that business says, well, look, we'll sit on our hands now because we don't know what this guy's going to do?
Well, I think actually what Paul described there perfectly describes the situation we're in right now and have been in for the last 14 years with a series of Conservative prime ministers. We have no industrial strategy. We aren't giving consistency to business, and businesses are investing elsewhere. Right now, we're in the pre-manifesto stage. I expect that we'll see much more clarity from Labour and from the Conservatives and everybody else when the election is eventually announced.
This sounds to me, because you're a passionate believer, Dale Vince, in policies for the environment. You've even caused a bit of controversy because you gave money to Extinction Rebellion. You've been talked to, haven't you? They've said, don't worry, Dale, go on the radio. It's all going to be all right. Just give us a few weeks and we'll sort it all out. Is that right?
No, I mean, I almost never talk to them, and certainly I haven't had a conversation before this. I got in last night and had the message, would I come on the show? Read the story in the press. Again, it's just the same old story. Is it nailed on or is it being ditched? I think it's somewhere pragmatically in the middle.
Yes, I'm trying to work out how you have a middle way, Paul Treasurer, between nailed on and ditched.
Well, I think the reality is here, we have to look at what we have in this country. 4 of the top 10 universities in the world, 17 of the top 100, brilliant science capabilities. We have a fantastic hand of cards. That needs to be played to a very clear industrial strategy. One part of a strategy is clarity on the financial incentives. But at the end of the day, in the world of business, we suffer knocks every day. We get back up and we go at it again. And what we're hearing about today is the 28 billion. To me, that's just the politics of the moment. What matters, quality of leadership, determination to make this country great economically, socially and internationally.
What also matters, Dale Vince, is what the money, whatever the sum ends up being, is spent on. What are you hoping that the election of a Labour government will do? What, in other words, if you could for us, flesh out that phrase, green prosperity plan, what do you expect it to be?
Well, I can't predict that, but I would tell you what my priorities would be, and that would be to create energy independence for our country, to make all of the electricity and the gas that we need right here in Britain, to price it here in Britain. We can have energy bills historically low and keep them there, create hundreds of thousands of jobs and tens of billions annually put back into our economy. So if I could just say this, pre the energy crisis, we spent £50 billion a year to bring fossil fuels here to burn them. They literally went up in smoke. If we spend that money instead on homegrown wind and sun and green gas, then we boost our economy massively. And that would be my priority if I were in government.